Welcome to the world of the absurd. Today is a story about two different stories from completely different places and times, both about finding joy in the struggle of rolling a giant ball around. One story comes from Greek mythology, transplanted and re-examined by a French absurdist. The other comes from the beautiful and creative minds of 2000s Japan. Let's talk about the latter first, since it's possible it's less familiar to you. Just what the heck are you looking at right now? This is the video game Katamari Damacy. It was developed by Namco for the PlayStation 2 in 2004 and was re-released as Katamari Damacy Reroll in 2018 and 2020 on Windows and all the big consoles. If the gameplay you see interests you at all, you should really give it a try. It's usually around $30 US, but goes on sale often enough. The 2000s were ripe with smaller Japanese studios making games that were vibrant and full of creative ridiculosity. Other examples include Rhythm Heaven, WarioWare, Elite Beat Agents, and Muscle March, among many other fantastic titles. They all, in their own way, left some sort of impact on the West. Of these, at least for me, Katamari still manages to stand on its own, and is definitely one of a kind. One common takeaway of these games, including Katamari, was certainly the commodity or gimmicky reading, where one looks at them and says, "Wowee, look at how silly Japan is." There can be a rather dismissive tone to that depending on who says it, but I definitely think it's true. From a place and tone that hopefully comes off as genuine and not condescending, I can't help but agree in the most endearing and encouraging way. The art form presented here is full of such whimsy and wonder, and it says something positive about the people who made it. It also says something else, something a bit more objectively or obviously positive. Look at how colorful, energetic, lighthearted, and creative video games can be. The same era in gaming, and even for a bit after, had its fair share of action and shooter games that were rather bleak, grimy, gloomy, and desaturated in theme and aesthetic tone. That's not a bad thing. All tones have their place. But it certainly planted a stark contrast, and Katamari Damacy and games adjacent to it were, for many, the light in the AAA darkness at the time. I'll go over the basic gameplay now and return to the story and themes later when it's time to synthesize. You control the Prince of the Cosmos, who's this sweet and beloved little green guy with the bean head you see, who's going around rolling up as many objects as he can with his cosmic ball called the Katamari. The Katamari grabs anything it comes into contact with, as long as it's of a certain size proportionate to it. The bigger your Katamari, the larger objects you can pick up. On any given level, you might go from picking up coins and playing cards to eventually grabbing entire buildings, cities, and countries once you've accumulated enough mass. There's an aspect to this that is all cosmically terrifying. There's another aspect to this that this is all just really good and dumb fun. It makes for a goofy and satisfying experience, backed by a fantastic whimsical art style and vibrant, energetic soundtrack. To break from that absurdity and move to another, I'll fill you in on the story of Sisyphus and its later philosophical significance if you aren't familiar. Sisyphus is a figure of Greek mythology, heralded as the founder and original king of the city now known as Corinth. Sisyphus was a crafty sort, so when he learns of the location of Aegina, a river nymph, he uses the information for his own benefit. This infuriates the large and in-charge chief god Zeus, who orders Thanatos, the Greek Grim Reaper, to chain Sisyphus up in the deepest depths of the underworld. Through wit and strength, Thanatos is the one who ends up getting chained up, which allows Sisyphus and any other human for that matter to cheat death for a while. Once that situation was rectified, Sisyphus was sent to an eternal punishment you might know well. He's made to roll an enormous boulder endlessly up a steep hill in his own little slice of the underworld. As soon as that big rock is pushed all the way up, it rolls right back down, and it's time to start all over again. Forever. This story was already very known in its own right. The term Sisyphean referring to any job or task that seems utterly endless or pointless. But it was given a new light, a new meaning, and a new audience by French novelist and philosopher Albert Camus. Albert Camus, born in French Algeria in 1913, would go on to use the story of Sisyphus in his 1942 essay titled The Myth of Sisyphus. More commonly known for his works of philosophical fiction such as The Stranger and the short story collection Exile in the Kingdom, The myth of Sisyphus is the closest venture to pure academic philosophy that Camus would take under. The first question of the myth of Sisyphus, the one that Camus finds the most important in all of philosophy, is simple. Do you want to live? What is the meaning of life then? A great question, sure, but isn't it rather silly to act brand new about it? Maybe, but Camus insists that there's no question more foundational and significant to human existence. There are countless people throughout the course of human history who have died because of their answer to this question. It could either be because they had found a resounding answer. Camus comments that a reason for living is also an excellent reason for dying. Or it is because they could not find one at all. Camus is examining this ultimate and definite decision that his numerous suffering souls have made because he believes how someone answers the question to the meaning of life lies in a tight relationship with if that person wants to live or not. What then is his own answer to this question? Camus' answer is, if there is a meaning to life, we will never know. It's the earnest search for this unknowable answer that either brings people to ridiculous conclusions or to the hopelessness of feeling that maybe there is no purpose. This is what Camus calls the absurd. For him, if there is a true, objective, facts don't care about your feelings answer to the meaning of life that is universal to every human being and otherwise in existence, we can never figure that out for sure. No matter how long our life, big our brain, or fat our wallets. It's important to mention here that Camus is not outright saying that there is no meaning or purpose to life at all. He doesn't want you or me to throw up our hands in resignation that nothing matters. He believes that we are asking a good question, but that answer is knowing that it is actually the wrong question. Well, what now? That's the real question, I think, that the myth of Sisyphus and with all of it, existentialist thought is hoping to resolve. If there is no one answer to why or how I am supposed to live, then what am I supposed to do? Well, what do you want to do about it? What do you think the meaning of life should be? And how are you going to define yourself and live based on that answer? The choice is entirely yours. For some, this answer could be utterly frightening. If you're the type of person who regularly experiences choice paralysis, such as giving up when you have to figure out what you want to eat for lunch or just deciding to get nothing at all, you weren't even that hungry anyways, you might be the last person you want to put in charge of giving an answer about the entire purpose of your existence. To others, this answer is completely freeing. The road ahead is completely unpaved. It's only what I want to make it? Well, sweet. Let's get started. Now, I'm fortunate enough to mostly fall into the second camp myself. If you personally feel like you're in the first camp, utterly lost, I want you to know that you have my deepest condolences. If it is any further consolation, it might help to know that this answer is not intended to be bleak or dismal. Camus labeled himself an absurdist, but it's easy to see how he falls into the greater net of what is called existentialist philosophy, which was certainly flourishing at the time. Absurdism and existentialism at large weren't intended to spread hopelessness and despair, but were actually meant to be a safety net of sorts that caught hopeless souls who were rocketing like a meteor into the pit of pure nihilism, believing that the world in existence could not possibly have any meaning. The early and middle of the 20th century, to make a grave understatement, was a time of horrible catastrophe and loss for many people. Every single human being at the time suffered first or second hand from the atrocities committed in the two world wars. Many people looked at all the horror and very fairly said, well, there's no way that anything could possibly matter if this could all be allowed to happen. That view is, in my opinion, completely valid. There can seemingly be no completely comforting, positive, and solid answer about the universe once such severe loss has been experienced on such a grave level. So, existentialists and absurdist thinkers faced that feeling the best that they could. Suppose there is no real answer to this life or anything in it. Well, what are we going to do about it? I might as well make up something fun and positive out of it the best I can. Find virtues and values that I can stick to that bring me some comfort and meaning. I might as well find anything creative and fun that harmonizes with the melody in my soul. I'm going to play the cards I've been dealt, no matter how crummy the hand might seem to anybody else. A lot of that same sentiment, to me, is also found in the story of Katamari Damacy. You are the prince of the cosmos, and your father, king of all the cosmos, has made a rather big oopsie. Because of this, all the stars in the galaxy need to be recreated. Why is this your responsibility? It's certainly not your fault that this all happened. Well, I don't know. Go take this sticky magical smear to Earth and go roll some things up and help fix things. And since this is a video game in the arcade style, I'm also going to set a completely arbitrary time limit on your escapades. Why? Well, I'm impatient and bored, I guess. Just hurry up with it. Thankfully, once you complete enough missions in a satisfactory manner, you can actually return to several stages on an endless mode and really take your time and stop to smell the roses, take in the atmosphere. But for now, the mission is urgent and cosmic. It's probably easy and abstract, or even if you've played the game, to be frustrated with the king. He seems like a worst nightmare, and a complete deadbeat dad or helicopter parent might even be preferable. Your plight is his fault, and he's not really going to help. The sins of the father have been paid by the son. But he's happy to sit there and critique how you do it all and grade you as such. I, for one, adore the king and all of his imperfections. He's a perfect reflection of some of the Greek and Roman pantheon. An all-powerful being who has no business behaving so stupidly human. He's colorful, comical, and in later games is far more affectionate to his beloved son, the prince, as he keeps rolling about fixing his father's foolish mistakes. You are so well loved, sweet green prince. You, prince, who have been thrown into such a stupid situation through no fault of your own and without your asking. This could all be so frustrating and hopeless to anyone else. The prince doesn't actually say anything in classic silent protagonist fashion, but by all accounts, he at the bare minimum seems to not mind the state of affairs he's been thrown into. There's even a lot of evidence that he's been having a lot of fun doing all this. To steal the trademark final phrase from Camus and modify it for our little green hero, one must imagine the Prince of the Cosmos happy. And you as the player will probably be having a lot of fun rolling as well. The premise is absolutely ridiculous, to be sure, but the world of Katamari is an absolute delight to be in. The art and music create a contagiously fun and energetic atmosphere, and a lot of the objects and situations you roll up on seem just as ridiculous as the one you found yourself in. How come all this random and goofy stuff is strewn about the world? Why are these cars or people stacked like a tower? How are there 30-foot-tall sumo wrestlers and flying superheroes? Well, in the nicest way possible, who cares? It's awesome. This is awesome. I certainly don't want to get off this ride. If you do, that's okay. You can always turn it off and go do something else. The cosmic threat is purely fictional. You won't hurt anybody. Katamari, to me, is just as much an answer to the question of life and situation possibly all being meaningless as much as the myth of Sisyphus is. We have no influence on what the reality of the world was before we got here, nor where we have been put in it as far as time and space goes. The initial hand we are dealt always seems completely random. Why was I, Patrick, born in America in 1995? I didn't have a choice in that. Nobody asked me. You probably feel the same about your life. What we do have agency over is how we choose to see things. The real world is obviously not as vibrant and physically impossible as Katamari is, but depending on how you see things, it could be pretty close. You could see the world as it was portrayed in other big budget 2000s games. Bleak, tinted, desaturated, violent, competitive. Or you could see how it looks like the developers of these fun and ridiculous Japanese developers saw it at the time, full of wonder and opportunity. The truth for you could also be anywhere in the middle. Putting that on you may seem as harsh and unfair as the world itself, but hopefully there's something about that dizziness of freedom that is exhilarating and full of hope. I want to end with a combination of two quotes by another existentialist philosopher, one that Camus himself was fond of, a Danish thinker named Søren Kierkegaard. What is the meaning of life? Good question. How should I know? Life is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be experienced. I hope the reality you experience is filled with your own hope, awe, and wonder. Thank you for being here, and thank you for listening.
Get it twisted? You are a pawn in a universe chess match. You mean nothing to God, if they even exist. You're a rounding error. You're 2 pennies on a Fortune 500 company's balance sheet. They don't care about you in the slightest.